In this session, we'll be going over some of the components which we cover in this class series. I often say to my clients, I don't want you to believe anything that I say. I want you to have an experience of what I say and for you to come to your own comprehensions of what that means for you. Learning discernment is crucial in being able to see the world around you. Building upon your experiential consciousness allows you to deepen your conscious experiences. In deepening your conscious experiences allows you to become more spiritually conscious. Growing your abilities of discernment allows you the abilities to discern the spiritual realm and to navigate your own spirit's positioning within the many levels of those spiritual realms. This is all part of what I hope to facilitate here in these classes. Just like in the physical realm, not all spirits or physically embodied people have your best intentions. Depending on what level those spirits or people resonate within, depend on if they even know what is your highest good. We'll be going deeper into that in future sessions. It's suggested you have a class journal for note-taking. There's many reasons, of course, for this, and it can be used to take notes of things you would like to look further into, and to log in your thoughts, questions, and epiphanies. And yes, you'll most likely be having epiphanies. Your journal is a good place for processing reactions and responses to these teachings, as well as to journal your experiences from the Reiki meditation experiences offered here. If you're artistic, it's encouraged that you be creative in drawing your journal. As well, your journal can also be as a tool to look back on in later times to see how you've grown in your experiences in classes like this. Over the many years that I've taken classes, as well as facilitated classes, my journals and drawings have been much more enlightening in months and years later. I even once painted a portrait of a woman to have later visions of her as if I knew her in a previous life. In fact, I had a vision of her while standing next to a close friend, and at the same time, he also had a vision of the woman, but from his perspectives of her. During consciousness shifts, things can get raised up and sometimes take time to make their full intent meant as we process our emotions and thoughts around the situations. Sometimes we need to learn to let go of what we currently hold on to so that we can experience far deeper aspects of our own being. I also suggest you learn to discern when you need to just experience this class without being at the ready to take notes and just listen to the things said and see how you experience what is being facilitated for you. You can always go back and rewatch episodes to see how what was said can make more sense after you've processed other parts of the class. You may notice I often repeat things in various ways to help see what it is being said with different perspectives. As you take your time and move along within the class, the first sessions will make more sense, so rewatching them can be beneficial to deepen your comprehension of what you are learning to process here. We are learning about energy and spirit and our own energy that we hold on to, as well as the energies that we take in and consume as part of us. And our own spirit needs processing time to shift out what no longer serves us and to sort through any emotions, thoughts, previous feelings, and or circumstances of life that might be in our way of being more spiritually conscious of our abilities of being. We are far greater beings than you may have come to learn. The current culture that many of us have been born into does not freely hold space for the greatness that is within us. That is rapidly changing, though, as we are actually within a massive paradigm shift of consciousness that is having effects on the societies of the planet. For some, it is too huge to see it for what it is, and like a watershed event, it may take some time for it to be recognized for what it actually is. Some may live out their lives unconscious to what is truly happening around them. It is my sincere hope that I can assist you in awakening to the blessings already contained within your soul so that you can develop your voice and free your spirit from any constraints holding you back from experience the greatness of your soul, which have been imposed from the society and culture you're being birthed from. I also would suggest, as you watch and listen to these classes, you pause this recording and look up any word which you're unfamiliar with. In the least, you should make a note of it in your journal and look it up later. Though, if you fail to know what a word means as you continue listening, you may not be able to discern the true depths of what is being put forward for you. The more words you miss the meanings of, the less you'll be able to follow along with the intent and messages being offered. A good example of this is within the Japanese word that we'll be using here, which is Reiki. I'll work towards explaining the meaning of that word here in a couple ways just to help you discern what we're actually discussing. It may sound like a riddle or what could be called word salad at times, but I ask you to wait and think and to process what I've said when I'm finished. Later, I'll share some of my own experiences with the modality of Reiki and even how Spirit showed me things regarding it when I was a toddler. If you haven't read my autobiography, Awakening Spirit Reclamation of Being, or been in sessions with me, you may not know that I've had many large psychic visions as well as spiritual encounters much of this life. Those experiences from being a toddler and onwards have helped me form my spiritual consciousness of this lifetime. I often share and discuss those experiences to facilitate deeper comprehensions of how we incarnate in this lifetime. That's a lot of words. Some of those experiences I will offer throughout this class. Though first, we need to discern the difference between the modality of Reiki and Reiki itself. To do that, it is important to learn to discern what Reiki itself is. Often when I hear people discuss the modality of Reiki, they discuss it as if it's the same thing as Reiki. In doing that, I feel one tends to miss much of what Reiki is and what the modality of Reiki is. While one learns and practices with the modality of Reiki, they're opening to learning to be consciously aligned with and work with what Reiki is. That might sound like word salad again to some, or it may sound pretty direct and yet actually miss more meaning within it to others. So I'll say it energetically differently in a moment to hear it more with the meaning of the word in English instead of just relying on the word itself. I tend to not to use the word Reiki as I go deeper into working with the modality of it, because I feel the use of the word itself can often distract some from the energy of what it means. It is a foreign word to English-speaking people after all. Thus, it's derived from a different culture than the one many are used to. And no offense meant in any of that, the term Reiki comes from the Japanese language. One of the clearer definitions of that Japanese word in English would be universally guided life force and or spiritually guided life force energy. There's much more to the term or word Reiki than just a mere word. Much gets lost energetically in the translation of that Japanese word into another language. So let me repeat what I said earlier, but say it with the English translations as opposed to just the Japanese word Reiki. We need to discern the difference between the modality of Reiki, which is a modality on how to work with universally guided and or spiritually guided life force energy itself. To do that, it's important to learn to discern what universally guided life force and or spiritually guided life force energy itself is. Often, when I hear people discuss the modality of Reiki, they discuss it as if it's the same thing as universally guided life force and or spiritually guided life force energy, as opposed to a modality to assist you in becoming conscious and working to align more clearly with it. In doing that, I feel one tends to miss much of what universally guided life force and or spiritually guided life force energy is and what the modality of Reiki is. While one learns and practices with the modality of Reiki, they are learning to be consciously aligned with what Reiki is, so to speak, which is universally guided life force and or spiritually guided life force energy. It can still sound a bit like word salad if you're not following along with the energy of what it means. So let's break it apart even more. With the modality of Reiki, one is learning to work with universally guided life force and or spiritually guided life force energy, though the modality is not the thing itself. There's an old saying, the map is not the terrain. Now, In most of the rest of the class, I'll refer more simply to the modality of Reiki and then what we're working as with spiritually guided life force. Some people might wonder why I couldn't have just said that last bit to start with and forego the drama of all the other parts. Though, my hope is that you are able to see how there is much more to that word Reiki than just the mere word itself. People often will proclaim they do Reiki, which actually is a curious statement. More clearly stated, one would practice the modality of Reiki and be a Reiki practitioner. One is practicing working with spiritually guided life force. Some people state they're being with Reiki, or more clearly meaning they are being with spiritually guided life force, as well, being as one with their spirit and soul in the realm of higher spirit. When one practices the modality for others, they are working to assist others within the other person's connections and alignment of spiritually guided life force. It is not really being done at or to them, though some attempt to work with it as if it's being done at or to others. I personally question if that creates a disconnect when worked with in that way. It's crucial to point out that working on learning to practice the modality of Reiki to then work with others, one truly needs to become aligned within and learn from spiritually guided life force. It can be a process, and that's okay. There's no need to rush it and miss the experience of the process. Many people attempt to learn the modality of Reiki unconsciously to gain a sense of self worth or identity. Some attempt to learn for a career or a job, and sometimes one that seems pleasant and more relaxed than, say, being a hands on massage therapist, which can be difficult on one's body. Over the many years I've worked to facilitate the training of the modality of Reiki, I have had many people explain various reasons as to why they wanted to learn the modality. Within time, working with the processing of the modality and the energies, one often has shifts in consciousness and their original intentions become higher. I've met many people who, after working with me in classes, tell me that their original thoughts on what Reiki was completely different than what they're now learning. And they are even more happier that they're journeying into a greater realm of it. Though, as well, I've had others become disillusioned with the training because they didn't want it to have such an extreme effect on their lives. And even some people have stopped training because their partners didn't like the fact they're becoming more independent and gaining a sense of their worth in life. The modality of Reiki can create major life changes for people if they're willing to allow it. So many will come to some level of where they want to be in the training, and that is okay. Though there have been times people have been confused as to why they're not having deeper experiences with it, and they will tell me they want to raise their vibrations higher and resonate more light. That's where empathic therapy sessions can assist, or even just deepen conversations to see where the person is coming from and what they're doing during their training. I've met many people that will receive a Reiki session and then have a glass of wine because they're so relaxed, or even drink wine during the weeks they're in Reiki training. If you're truly trying to raise the vibrations of your energy fields, what you eat or drink is going to assist you or conflict with raising your frequencies. We need the space of time to process a Reiki session and the training to gain what it has to offer us. In later portions of the class, I'll go deeper into these points and more. Learning the modality of Reiki is about a way of being. It's truly about becoming aligned within one's spirit and where one is actually coming from one's soul, and in my belief, which is from beyond the space of time, and experiencing life from that state of spiritual consciousness. That can be a challenge if one is seeing their life as if they are their life, as opposed to the one experiencing a life, or seeing their life as if it happens at or to them, as opposed to them being a co creation of life. In my belief, we are a soul which experiences spiritually guided life force energy. Over the years, I've had people tell me that they are Reiki masters. Yet, in speaking more in depth with them, I find out that they've never taken a class in the Reiki modalities. And can one even master Reiki, yet alone the modality of Reiki? Or does Reiki master the person? I've met people that attempt to learn the modality and pick it up and put it down and think they're going to effectively learn what it is all about. They say they did Reiki a couple times during the week, or they didn't have time to work with it, but will get back to it soon. Once you open to the energy, it is just something you breathe and be with. Yes, there are techniques you can learn in the process, but working with spiritually guided life force is just realizing it's a part of you and allowing yourself to process it more clearly within you and allow everything that is discorded and convoluted within your energy fields, which is not truly part of you, to fall from you or experience your being and self transcend from it. One of the issues with this is not everyone is willing to have an ability of response, a responsibility for that. And that is okay. Free will is a blessing in and of itself. Karma is something we can learn and grow with, and we can gain from those abilities we have access to from learning from our karma, as well as the karma of others. We can bring forward karma that is harsh, and we can bring forward karma that brings us blessings. If you have experiential consciousness of the realities of reincarnation, then you may have experienced how abilities from our previous lives can also come forward into our current incarnations as well. The discernment of spiritual consciousness can bring light into our lives. We gain from that light. Many people are deeply attached and entrained within things they actually are not. Their sense of identity is attached to false realities. To let go of those false realities means they no longer perceive a sense of identity and thus feel the lack of something to stand on. When in truth, working with spiritually guided life force is allowing your own spirit to awake within whatever quagmire of realities you may have believed to be true, and to have actual spiritual experiences of consciousness, which then builds spiritual consciousness. Learning to reorient your limitations of consciousness to the origins of where you're actually coming from, and to focus from there builds foundations for your spiritual energies. The process that you're experiencing now, how you're incarnating into this physical realm, is what it's all about. You existed before you were physically born in this lifetime, and you will continue to exist when you give up your current body and set of circumstances. Your soul existed before you birthed into your current body. Many of us have consciousness of other lifetimes, as well as spaces in between those streams of life. As I've implied, for me, it's awakening to the guidance system that is already a naturally part of my soul and spirit and being. It's being conscious of the origins of where I'm coming from, my soul, and being able to move spiritually through time and space without becoming detached from my spiritual consciousness. I have what appear to be past life memories of this, as well as some memories of space in between lives, and even consciousness of being in my mother's womb in this life, and the tragic passing of my twin brother in the womb. This basically is the class, but I will break it down in various ways to help assist you in processing the meanings of it for you. The modality itself that is currently taught as Reiki has its origins in Japan. In the deeper classes of this subject, the manuals go into more detail of the Japanese language, of how the word is written, and what the components of it mean. The Japanese language is written in what we would call pictographs, as opposed to what we think of as in words in English. Drawn within the pictographs are energy and meanings that don't tend to translate the same into other languages. One could say the spirit of the writer is embedded within the pictographs, and it is. I will go into that more in a bit. You might be thinking two things right now. One, I thought this was a Reiki 101. This sounds more like a higher level college course than a 101. And two, I don't want to learn Japanese or the history of Japan to learn more about what Reiki is. Remember, there's an and beyond within the title of this Reiki 101 course as well. And we actually won't be learning the Japanese language, though I offer this insight to show how the concept of what the modality of Reiki, never mind what Reiki itself is, can become diluted when you fail to have discernment of what is being discussed. The concept of the modality of Reiki, which was originally brought forward and taught in Japan, is vastly different than the concept of the modality of Reiki that is currently taught in the West. That is important to realize, and we'll touch upon that later. We'll not be going into the proper Japanese history of the modality of Reiki, nor will we be going into an extended history of the Western version of the modality of Reiki. We will touch upon aspects of these things, and if you wish to learn more about the history of the modality, you are encouraged to seek out more study material on it. If you were to take a deeper class in the modality of Reiki with us, I would include Reiki manuals with that. Those manuals do go more into the history of Reiki as well. My hope is that during the facilitation of these sessions, you will grow in your discernment to get to know yourself better as well as your being and gain more love for your being and where you're coming from to begin with. To me, yourself and your being are distinctly different things, which I will work towards helping you comprehend more clearly as we go through this class. My hopes are that this course will be beneficial to those new to the modality of Reiki, as well as a refresher or a new perspective for those who have been working with it for years. This course, as well, will be a foundational component for those who choose to work with Reiki itself deeper with me in training. There are many aspects of Reiki training that I'll be facilitating in this class series, though I'll not be offering what is known as Reiki attunements or placements within this course. You would need to reach out to me or someone else for that aspect of learning the modality of Reiki. The reason for this, for me, is that I feel students of Reiki need a personal one-on-one component within a Reiki class. The person facilitating the Reiki attunements or placements needs to be able to assess whether the student is ready for the attunements and placements as well. I do hope, in your experience of this class series, you may gain a level of spiritual consciousness anyhow that will assist you in having your own awakening to spiritually guided life force as is. While I do believe attunements and placements can be done from a distance or online, I think there needs to be a personal one-on-one facilitation as well. I'll be discussing what Reiki attunements and placements are and how they are different. I personally believe it is helpful to have an idea of what you're getting into yourself ahead before you go forward and make sure you choose the paths wisely that you're manifesting for you. Much can be lost in translation, and even more can be lost when lacking one-on-one guidance from an informed teacher facilitating the subject. When the teacher is empathic, they as well are able to help guide the student in ways words alone will not explain. One of the main differences of older teachings of working with spiritually guided life force, even older than the Japanese modality of Reiki in the Western version, is that teachers didn't teach hundreds of people that they truly didn't know and then never see again. There was an extended facilitation that went much deeper than just conveying words that the student would then have to figure out what the meaning of them was to them. There was an actual spiritual connection from teacher to student, a spiritual shift and awakening to spiritual consciousness that took place within the student just by being with the teacher. It might have been a shift from the teacher's spirit or the spirit realm emanating from the teacher, or it might have occurred just from the space itself that the teacher facilitated and held for the student. In the West, the idea of sitting quiet in a room with others and a teacher sitting quiet, barely talking, if even talking, would seem boring. And they would probably go crazy in that environment over a period of time. Though in truth, it wouldn't drive them crazy. They would either be driving themselves crazy or unable to transcend the crazy they already are holding within them or attaching to from the world. There was much more guidance going on in that quiet room with no speaking. It should be pointed out the Japanese modality of Reiki was not the original form of working with spiritually guided life force. Working with spirit and one's energies is an ancient ability that goes beyond the recorded history of planet Earth. You may have heard stories of gurus, which means spiritual teacher, including one who imparts initiations, where the guru sits quiet with their students for extended periods of time, or even never speaks. The teaching is coming from the spiritual realms and the spirit of the guru is imparting the initiation of it. Or said another way, the spirit of the guru is holding space for the student to encounter higher frequencies of the spiritual realm in their own placement within it to become spiritually awakened. Gurus that spoke in riddles were allowing space for the student to see and learn discernment through the paths the words offered, through the experiences the student went through in processing what the words and experiences meant for them. The experiences of these things were parts of the class. There were even stories where when a student was primed and now ready, and the teacher would come up behind the student and hit them hard on the upper back or back of their head, and the student would suddenly become enlightened. All through time, there have been countless modalities, if you will, of how to work with one's spiritually guided life force. When Yusui started working with spiritually guided life force, or Reiki as it's known in Japan, it is said it happened on a sacred Japanese mountain where he became enlightened. After processing his experiences, he later had effects on others by just being in their presence. It is said others had various healings due to this. Some claim Jesus, or who some know as Yeshua, was also born with these abilities, or even more in his being aligned with what we call God, or is God due to that, or for some, they claim his abilities formed as he grew older, and some don't believe in any of that. It's important to note that the modality of Reiki is not a religion, though. It can enhance any religion that is based within love if you so wish. I've had people tell me they didn't believe we even have spirits or souls, and that my experiences since childhood are just products of my imagination. They never seem to stay with the conversation long enough to explain their thoughts as to why I can find experiential proof of things they have been unable to experience. To them, if they don't experience something, it can't be real since it fails to exist within their minds. For me, whatever your experiential beliefs may be, or beliefs you may have learned from others, working with and being part of spiritually guided life force has been around for a long time. It's a part of us. It's the spirit that is emanated from our soul. We are spiritual beings currently having human experiences. I should state that what I previously said is not equating Yusui to Jesus. I am attempting to point out that constructs of healing modalities have been around for a very long time. As I previously stated, the healing modality of Reiki is not a religion. Then again, it is said by many that Jesus or Yeshua was not teaching religion either, though, curiously, religion did build up around his name and often did the exact opposite of what he taught. As well, the healing modality built up around Yusui's name that made what he was facilitating seem like something it really wasn't to begin with. In the West, for some, the modality of Reiki has become more of an exercise of energy than what it truly is. In a way, that's much like the same thing that has happened to the ancient spiritual practice in energy alignment of yoga in the West. Our need of language and the use of it can often distract us from the energy of spirit and what is actually taking place within and around us. Learning to listen to the language of spirit and the spirit within the language can assist us in foregoing the need for drama that is not in our best interest. We can learn to heal in what that truly means, and in doing so, our healing, which is really the allowance for the authenticity of our spirit to come forward from our soul. In doing so, it is creating and holding space for others to do so as well. There's no need for the drama in feeding off of being the healers of others when we're authentically bringing our own emanations of light forward into our incarnation. In doing so, others can have the free will to heal, whatever that may mean for them, or not to. I personally believe that one needs to experience their healing to have the experience of it. It's not our place to take away lessons and experiences a person created for themselves in the process of their incarnating. It's not our place to force Reiki onto the world, in my belief, nor is it our place to force spiritual consciousness onto humanity. There are many dimensions of realities taking place, and our first responsibility is having an ability of response of our own spirit's consciousness. if we so choose, and from that, others can be assisted naturally with us. When I facilitate classes or meditations in person, I experience things many of those in attendance fail to be conscious of during the experience. At times, when everyone's eyes are closed and they think not much is going on, I'll be seeing and feeling various attendees stand up and come over and tell me things. Their body is still sitting in their chair, and they are unconscious that they're doing it. I often get proof of what I experienced was real later. As well, when we have discussions, I sometimes experience this in a room of people that are seemingly fully awake and having multiple conversations going on, and a part of them will approach me and either tell me or show me things. Then at times, there's also disembodied spirits around the people communicating with me at times. Much more is multidimensionally going on around us than the average minded person comprehends. Even just casual mingling in social situations can be a curious thing for me, since at times I see, feel, and experience things some others often seem to not realize are happening. It's almost like aspects of them slow down and parts of people tell and show me things. Then people will say I'm psychic when often they're just unconsciously telling and showing me things they don't consciously realize they are saying or doing. I find the term extrasensory perception to be an odd term. Is it extra, or is it just the average person is unwilling to openly perceive more clearly than they have been entrained within their domestication of normalcy? One's orientation is crucial in being spiritually conscious. The modality of Reiki, as well as spiritually guided life force itself, is about spiritual consciousness. I believe we are souls who are emanating, resonating spirit, multidimensionally through spaces of time into this time period that we're within. I believe we're manifesting our incarnation with the help of the cosmos, what we might term God, in the higher realms, in our parents, in their ancestral heritage, in any karma involved within all of those things. As someone who is empathic and has certain sensory abilities, I perceive that many are commonly lost with the entrainments of their consciousness. For many, their consciousness is entrained away from their connections and perceptibility of their spirit and soul. Many are lost thinking if they are good enough, when they die, they'll get to go to heaven. I believe we are already good enough, and we are coming from our souls in heaven into this realm to experience being as human as is. The key is not that we need to find our way back as some anointed hour. The key is awaking within spiritual consciousness to comprehend not only where we're coming from and where we are going to, but to be conscious of where we actually are to begin with. This concept will be much of where I go in this training series. As I've said before, the term Reiki, loosely translated, means universally spiritually guided life force. In English, the term Reiki, possibly due to the fact it is a foreign word, fails to have the impact of the energy of what that term in Japanese has, in my belief. In Japanese, the word, comes with an impact of cultural conditioning that one misses if they're not from that culture. Though culture itself is a cult. Transcending the cult we're born in and through is crucial within spiritual awakening. Respecting the cultures in the process respects the lessons of history within those cultures. Within this class series, there is a session called Reiki Symbols, Energy Forms, and Alchemy. I'll touch upon the energy forms of languages and how that can affect our abilities of voice, as well as the frequency of energy that we share and receive from using the language that we speak. That session will help you process more of what I'm saying in this session. This class series is a process. Open to it and enjoy the time you take in it. Rushing through the sessions only limits your experiences of any processing you could be having. I've met people who have taken Reiki classes and rushed through them. They have taken all the levels of Reiki classes offered and did not give themselves the time to process the class. nor really process the experiences of working with the Reiki energy or the energy of the symbols, never mind truly move through their own healing processes before they are off trying to be healers of others. Many people are self inflicted with needing others to be wounded so they can go through the drama of attempting to heal them. I personally believe that one's healing is something only they can achieve. While another can assist and facilitate us in our healing journeys, I believe it takes the experience of the healing for the abilities of the healing to take place. Those abilities of response with our own healing journeys are our own responsibilities. Those abilities of responsibilities, allow us to stay within the frequency of healing so we don't have to repeatedly learn the lessons within diseases of fully living. As I said in the beginning of this, in this session, we'll be going over some of the components that we'll cover in this class series of sessions. If you paid attention, I've done much of that in what I have just said. It may benefit you to rewatch and listen to this video session again to gain a deeper level of processing of what I brought up for you in your reactions and responses to this. Possibly rewatching this class after you've watched and processed the class session on Reiki symbols, energy forms, and alchemy will help as well. But first, let me tell you a little bit about my early awareness of the modality of Reiki that was brought about by spirit, as well as my own psychic visions that I had as a toddler of seeing myself in visions throughout my life. When I was a very small child in this lifetime, I went through a period of night terrors. As soon as my head hit the pillow, I would drop into an old battle scene and experience what felt like to me that I died in that battle. Even though in the trauma of the dream, it felt like I was there for a good period of time, being overtaken by the battle, it was like I would be actually instantly sitting back up, screaming over my reactions to what I was experiencing. It kept happening many times until during it, I heard her voice and show me how to create an energetic form to move beyond the experience I was having. I then had an experience of seeing what appeared to be my spirit leaving that body and moving away from what was happening to it. I had another spirit leading me away, explaining that I was not the body and that I needed to detach from what was happening to it. I was being shown lessons that I attempt to explain to others now as an adult, that we are not our body, our emotions, our experiences of this life. We are the being that may or may not have those things. Comprehending the difference within this allows us greater spiritual consciousness. Later in life, when I took my first Usui Reiki class, my teacher explained to me, as she was starting what is called the attunement process, that she was seeing that I already was attuned to Reiki. Later, when I was attuned to what are known as the first three Reiki symbols, I suddenly realized that the first Reiki symbol was familiar to me. The more I worked with the energy of that symbol, the more I became conscious as to why it was familiar. That was the energy form that spirit taught me when I was a child to protect and help me from the night terrors I had. That was the energy form that assisted me in moving on from that dying body and back into the spirit realm as a disembodied spirit. As my subconscious opened and processed this awareness that was so deeply within me, I saw glimpses of memories and flashbacks of my childhood and other things Spirit taught me about Reiki when I was a toddler. I also saw how my own visions as a child of seeing deeply into the lifetime I was going to be part of would show me things regarding the modality of Reiki, as well as my own process of embodiment in this lifetime. I've even had experiences lying on a Reiki table, deep within a Reiki session, to open my eyes and see the astral projection of me as a child standing there watching what I was just experiencing. The multidimensionality of those moments in time open a space beyond time itself and can teach us much. There is much more regarding that death scene that I'll discuss further in this class series. Working with our own process of incarnation is a spiritual process that is multidimensional. You cannot learn it just from reading a book or listening to a person speak about it. One needs to truly experience the elements of their own being on their particular journey's path that they're manifesting to embody more clearly and to manifest in a manner that attains more light in the process. That light will then cast more light for us to see our way through any darkness around us. To sum up some of what I have said, the word Reiki means universally guided life force, spiritually guided life energy. In my belief, it is our own spirit's guidance system that originates from our soul and is able to guide our spirit multidimensionally through time and space. It is that guidance system in the higher realm of spirit that guides us forward. Its ability of discernment, not just any frequency within the spiritual realm, but rather the frequencies that are within our highest intention. When I was a teenager, I would hear people talk about body, mind, spirit, and I always thought there was something wrong with that saying. It felt mixed up to me every time I heard someone excitedly talk about it. To me, it's spirit, mind, body, or even more energetically spiritually clear, soul, spirit, mind, body. We exist regardless to having a physical body. We are not our body. We exist regardless to our mind in whatever mind constructs we may have. Many people who claim to be intelligent will tell you that you are what you think and you are what you do. I find that to be an entrainment that is subjugating society from their own spiritual consciousness. I believe we may have the abilities to think or not, but we are the being doing so. I also believe we are not what we do, we are the being that may be doing so. Though many will claim you need to be careful of what you do because you will become that. In truth, I believe it is that we may become like what we do, but we still are the one consciously or unconsciously behaving in doing it. Yes, if we behave in certain ways and do certain things long enough, we may be entrained within those behaviors, but we are not our behaviors. We are the one behaving a certain way. Discernment is key to spiritual consciousness, and that is what I hope you will have experiences of during this series of sessions. Some still might say, but if a person behaves badly after a while, they will become a bad person. Though, are we a person to begin with? Or are we a soul who resonates spirit and incarnates into a physical body and lives as if a person? Are we our personality, or are we the being with a current state of personality? Where you choose to see and view the existence of your life from will affect your perceptions of it. When you see from your soul, you then are able to see through times and spaces of your spirit and the possibilities of what we call past lives into your current stream of incarnation and beyond. That is how people we call psychics are able to see and sense things that others fail to have the abilities of. When you give up your physicality, you still exist and still can see from your soul. Though if you are lost in consciousness, attached to other things, like an illusionary identity, the entity of the id, it may take time and energy to accept the light of what you actually are. Some of the things we'll be considering during this class series. Growing up, when I spoke of things people around me were unwilling to consider, they would often say to me, "Well, that's your reality. Mine is different." I often found that to be a strange statement. While we are multidimensional beings in a multidimensional reality, do we each have our own realities? Or do we each have our own senses of reality within the whole of that multidimensional reality? Are we all connected? Or do we have the ability to detach from the whole of creation and move on without the system that we are within? How could that even be possible? When a tree falls in a forest and no one is around, does a tree make a noise? The life and passing of an unknown to us tree is still a miracle in of itself. The forest itself takes notice. If we are truly at one with the universe, part of us may notice as well. I don't believe we are our sense of reality. You could get drunk on yourself or something else and be determined you are a pink elephant, but is that going to make you one? Though many limit their consciousness and thus their experience of higher spiritual consciousness and where they're coming from to begin with, when their sense of reality is unwilling to hold space for greater than they are allowing. We're much greater beings than the accepted and normalized narrative discourse of society often is willing to allow us to openly discuss in society. For the truth of these things would upend the paradigms of society we are living in, though, in truth, those paradigms are crumbling all around us, and a new spiritually conscious humanity is awakening in the process. I hope you enjoy and gain from this online project of mine.